Now, applied knowledge. I'm going to tell you two stories, but you have your own story of this. I'm just sharing mine. I will promise you, all of you, everyone in this room has a similar story. It won't be a similar story. I was 10 years old with my grandfather, who had farmed for 40 years in Nebraska. To say he was a veteran farmer would be an understatement for the word veteran, right? He had farmed for a long time. The University of Nebraska County Extension agent, he was about 32 years old, came out to see us. And here's what his goal was. His goal was to teach my grandfather the keys to farming and how to replant his, right? All the theory that he'd learned at the University of Nebraska. My grandfather all I can tell you is it's good news that it wasn't my grandmother. My grandmother would have gave him the what for. My grandfather was a very calm, gentle man, very patient. My grandmother, not so much, right? My grandmother is probably the most influential person for me because she would not mess around with things, or she would say what she thought. Anyhow, the county extension agent was with my grandfather for about an hour and a half, and he left. And so I turned to my grandfather and I said, "How was that?" And he said, "Ronnie, that young man is really confused." He says he doesn't know. He couldn't find his rear end with a rake. And I said, "Well, Grandpa, why did you listen to him for so long?" And he said, I knew what I knew. I didn't know what he knew. Now, about 30 minutes into it, I knew that I didn't want to know any more of what he knew. But I didn't know, so he's curious, right? So he's going to listen. My point is that there's applied knowledge is practical versus theory. That University of Nebraska extension agent had theory. He came out. Here's the theory of this. And we're in the middle of theory, are we not? We're in the middle of theory. There's a lot of things. I mean, for many of you, when spin rate come out, if you remember this, when spin rate first come out is high spin rate up in the zone, low spin rate down in the zone. That's it, right? Is that true? Not so much, right? It's like, what do we say? It's more complicated than that. How many times do you say that about your life? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? Yeah, that's life. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like to play, right? So this is a classic case in point, right, of practical applied knowledge. So my second story is this man right here, who I'm lucky enough to call him is my father-in-law. And he was a rancher for his whole life. He has a degree from Penn State, and he was a registered Angus breeder. And if you went to a restaurant and had certified Angus beef, and you know how good it is, you had a guy that was very, very instrumental in that product. And so the basic cattle industry says, we want to do this, and he would say, no, that's not exactly right. And he, in a little small town in North Platte, Nebraska, thought differently, act differently, and he would fit in perfectly in this group, right? He didn't accept the standard operating procedure. He questioned it, and he says, okay. First of all, he can question the constraint, and then he had a pre-mortem, and then actually he paid attention to the details, and it changed everything in the cattle business, and he changed it, and it became, he's got so many awards, I don't even know, and he's just an average man with incredible insight because he just pays attention, and really what he is, he's the cornerstone for practical application, right? And so specialists are needle movers, history makers, turning theory into practical application. Ptolemy said that the earth was the center of the universe, and for 1,500 years that was accepted. So you think baseball changes slowly. For 1,500 years, the earth was the center of the universe. Then Copernicus came along and said, no, that's not right. The sun is the center of the universe. How do you think that went over in the society at large? Not well. And then Galileo made it even worse, and he goes, well, we're not the only galaxy. And he was in house arrest for stating the obvious, right? Then we had Newton, Einstein, and Oppenheimer, right? All the way through all those names started with not accepting the status quo, not accepting it, and thinking differently, right? So now we're going to go into I've just spent some time with the why. I'm going to now get to the what and the how, but I want to really quickly go through, if you're kind of wondering, I always think this is important. Where did we get this from? I think, where did the ranch get their stuff from? People always ask me, I see some other people are using your stuff and they're taking credit for it. And they think I'm going to get mad at it. I think that's silly. Like it wasn't mine to begin with. I mean, it's like, but I own the idea. That's ridiculous, right? We're in process, right? I wanting credit for something is like, it to me seems a lot like being in 7th grade. Like, I want credit for that. I mean, get over yourself. I mean, don't take yourself so seriously, right? You're not the first person that had that thought. It's okay. And really, we always say this, don't we say this? We're in it for the game. We're in it for the kids. We're in it for but I want credit. Well, what is it? Is it you want credit or are you in it for the game? Right? So actually, when I see people that take our stuff and have applied it, whether or not they give us credit for it is irrelevant. I go, hey, is some kid somewhere getting better because of that? Bonus. End of story. I'm good. Right? I'm good. Right? So here are the 7 primary. Now, I have a lot more influencers than that. Some of you in here are influencers of me. Right? But here are my 7. So I don't have Brent Strom down there. He's an influencer of me. Flint Wallace is an influencer. Tom House was an influencer. But here are the 7 primaries, right? Wes Johnson, Derek Johnson, all these are influencers of me. But here are the 7. Nikolai Bernstein, Paul Nyman, Mike Marshall, W. Timothy Galloway, Gray Cook, Franz Bosch, Marcus Elliott. Some of you are baseball guys and you still would go, I have no idea. I don't even know 3 or 4 of these. What are you talking about? I don't know who Marcus Elliott is. Who is that? Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but what I've done on your sheet is, if you want, and I would highly recommend that you go study these guys. If something along here makes sense to you, go study, go dig your own, go build your own iceberg, right? So Bernstein, I'm just going to start with him because wow. I mean, we use Bernstein as a vowel here, like go Bernstein stuff, right? So he's so important. And Bernstein was the preeminent trailblazer in the field of motor control and motor learning. Bernstein's work opened a new discipline called kinesiology. Ever heard of that? Right. And considered the structure and mechanism of motion. Bernstein also coined the term biomechanics, the study of movement through the application of mechanical principle. Nyman took his work and kind of coined a phrase. He calls it the Bernstein principle. The body will organize itself based on the ultimate goal of the activity. I'll talk about that in a second, but it is the essence of everything we do here. Right? I'm going to say that again. I think maybe I did write it down. I'm not sure if I did. No, I didn't. Well, if you have never heard that, I'm going to say it again so you have it. Many of you have heard me say that over and over and over again, like Jim doesn't want to hear it anymore, ad nauseum. The Bernstein principle is the body will organize itself based on the ultimate goal of the activity. Now that seems like, duh. It's everything, right? So now you have to make sure you're really clear on the goal, right? And your body will organize itself. And it is, by the way, a problem in our game now because everybody is trying to get the velo, right? The only goal is find a way to organize yourself for the velo. Intent becomes the key phraseology. You hear that all the time now. Intent, intent, intent. Your body, if you said to your body, I want to throw it 95 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, right? And you make that as the goal. Your body will try to do that. But but that did not mean it organized itself the most efficiently to avoid injury, right? Because it's thinking it's a one-off. Like I'm going to go to the carnival. Remember that, Michael, when you took your girl to the carnival when she's still your girl, not your wife, but you took your girl to the carnival and you go, watch this, I got this ball, and you got to throw it, and it's only one time. Your body will go, let's go. But pitching isn't going to the carnival for one throw. Pitching is 100 pitches every fifth day for 6 months. And be able to throw it over a white thing and have the guy not squared up that often. Right? That's the Bernstein principle. So I think what the problem is, they don't define the goal very well. So Nyman is the second one. And the single most impactful person in the ranch, bar none, is Paul Nyman. And this is odd because Paul Nyman and I haven't spoken for years. And matter of fact, I think a lot of times Paul Nyman is not a fan of ranch. That's okay. That's irrelevant as well, right? That does not minimize his influence, right? And I do believe that a lot of the velo enhances over the last 20 years are really tied to Paul Nyman, right? But Paul Nyman, he's the one that created the Bernstein principle. Then we have Doc Mark Marshall. Some of you were here the year that he came, and that was quite a show. And once again, like Paul Nyman has a lot of times has some not good things to say about the ranch. And Mike Marshall did not like the ranch, right? That's irrelevant because I got a lot of it from him. Whether he got from me or whether he liked what I do is quite honestly irrelevant, right? But he taught us the importance of really deceleration. And he was a pioneer really in analytics, working primarily around injury prevention. He was the first one that actually said out loud, we can prevent injury. And I don't think that's actually true. You can't prevent it. You can lessen the frequency of it. But he's one of the first adopters of weighted ball training, emphasis on spin and the importance of slow motion video, right? The ranch's 3 foundational deceleration drills bears his name, Marshall 1, Marshall 2, and Marshall Switch. Us naming our drills after the late Mike Marshall might have been the only thing he agreed with, right? But it's very important because he was the influence on that. Tim Galloway is, I'm going to go down to the black down there, the bold. Galloway is the inspiration behind the very core of our daily training philosophy. Kendra, if you have not read The Inner Game of Golf, I would urge you to do so. The Inner Game of Golf changed everything about how I teach. The Inner Game of Golf changed everything on the way I teach. So he talked about a call for training through the awareness mode, self-discovery, guided self-discovery, that sort of thing. Really, really impactful guy. So Timothy Galloway is very important to us. Gray Cook. How many have ever heard of Gray Cook? Right? Gray Cook is that functional movement screen. Cook is the inspiration behind our physical assessment. The BRAT, which is the baseball ranch assessment tool, functional movement screen, we use on every camp. We take a look at the structure. Really important. One of the pieces of this to keep our pitchers healthy is that we have a regular screen to make sure that our ankle mobility is not a constraint. Hip mobility, T-spine mobility, shoulder mobility. He also was really impactful in a concept he referred to as feed the mistake, and I'll get to that later. Incredibly helpful concept. If you don't know what that is, I'll tease. It's a game changer. Feed the mistake, right? Franz Bosch, he's also spoken several times. He is the inspiration behind our differential training and chaos training, right? To challenge the body to move in a way to organize itself and really problem solve. And the last guy is Marcus Elliott. Marcus Elliott is a Harvard-trained physician. He had a cup of coffee with the Seattle Mariners as their, I think, their strength program director. He took all the weights out of the room, the weight room, took all the squat racks out, and a couple weeks later he got released because, he was too progressive too fast. The rest of the world couldn't catch up with what he was saying. He's a brilliant guy, and he is the inspiration for us behind customization and hyper-personalization. He would say that if you train two athletes exactly the same, you've made a mistake. We're too different, right? So you can't be, that does not mean that principles don't apply, but if you treat everyone like it's a one-size-fits-all thing, you're going to get very limiting results on that. And I will just say this, it's really true, and I use this analogy for everyone here, right? If you think about it as penicillin, right? Is penicillin a good thing? And I think most of you would say, yeah, it's saved a heck of a lot of people's lives over the years. Well, so let's take a look at the whole iceberg, shall we? If you have an infection, and if you're not allergic to penicillin, it could absolutely save your life. And that way, penicillin is an exceptional tool. If you do not have an infection, any of you just driving around town and go, you know what, I haven't had a penicillin shot in a while. I think I'm just going to wheel in there and get one. That would be insane because that would be a waste of time, resources, and energy. You don't have problems. So getting a penicillin shot and you don't have an infection is a waste of time. So in that case, penicillin is neither good nor bad. But if you're allergic to penicillin, and all of you have been asked, either if you've been in a doctor's office, are you allergic to penicillin? Or they'll ask now, do you have any allergies or do you have anything? Like they'll say that. If you're allergic to penicillin, I give you a penicillin shot. It's not a good thing, right? So I go back, is penicillin a good thing? And the answer is, it just depends. Know the whole iceberg, right? So now, here's what I'm saying to you. You have your favorite drill, whatever your favorite drill is. Let's say you have your favorite, let's even get a little bit deeper. Your favorite lower half loading drill. Okay? It's your favorite. Is it gonna work? I'm just gonna state the obvious, right? Is it going to work equally for everybody? And of course, you know the answer is not only no, but right. The question is, that I want you to ask, is my person, is that their penicillin allergy, are they allergic to that? Are they, in other words, are they not, that does not fit them? And if you don't ask that question, you can actually take them backwards. I see it all the time, and here's what happens. I see it all the time, guys, see it all the time. And maybe you've done it, I know I've done it. I'm guilty of this. I show a person my favorite drill, it doesn't work very well. Who do I blame? Chicken salad, chicken pucky. The motor moron over there. Not me. I'm brilliant. Not my drill. it's amazing. It's that person. Well, the problem is when every time you point one finger, there's 3 more pointing back the other direction, right? So I was talking with Dr. Andrews, who's the preeminent orthopedic surgeon in the world, and he said, Ron, what do you think is the secrets to being a good pitching coach? And he thought I was going to say teaching mechanical efficiency or whatever. I said, no, humility, empathy, not even close. Humility, I don't know it all. There's no way I know it all. Empathy, what's going on with you? How can I help you? Try this. That wasn't very good. When you go to an eye doctor, he doesn't go, here you go, $50. Or I guess nowadays, $300. What does he say? Is this better? Worse. Better? Worse. Better? Worse. What do? Here's the drill, dummy. Here you go. I don't know why you don't get it. Johnson over there, he gets it. Empathy, there's 3. Humility, empathy, clarity. Can you teach with clarity? How many times when you were playing, the coach was ambiguous? That's terrible.